The lady from Uncle. International affair. The lady.
Hi, today I want to take a look at mysterious watch histories. It happens that you sign into your YouTube channel, having signed into your Google account, and you go to your watch history and you suddenly discover that there are videos there that you never watched. How does that happen? There are quite simple explanations, and there are some that are a little bit more complicated but are benign, and there are obviously ones which are a little bit scary. So let's look at the very simple explanation. The simple explanation is that you signed in to a family computer or your friend's device and you simply forgot to sign out, and they are essentially adding to your watch history by simply using your Google account because you haven't signed out. The way to deal with that is obviously to go to your Google account's security side of things and deauthorize various devices that you no longer want to have access to your Google account. We'll deal with that in a minute. So that is the most obvious one, and it's easy done. In fact, there are several cases where users have remembered that, yes, their, I don't know, their laptop battery or their phone battery died and they wanted to use YouTube, and so they signed in at a friend's house using a computer or even a third-party device. Which is a little bit more complicated to sign in and obviously to sign out again at the end of the session. You might have gotten carried away and forgot to do it. So that is the most obvious one, and that's very simply explained. Slightly more complicated is what I'm showing here. I'm signed in to a test Google account. I'll call it Google account B, and I'm switched to a YouTube brand account. Now, a YouTube brand account is one that can have multiple owners and managers. So I am looking at the watch history of a YouTube brand account, and none of these videos were watched either by Google account B or by this YouTube brand account. But because I did watch them, I know that they were watched with Google account A on Google account A's own YouTube channel. And I make the distinction of YouTube channel and YouTube brand account because the YouTube channel that watched these videos is close linked to Google account A's profile. So it is me using YouTube as me, not using a YouTube brand account and a business or whatever. So the thing here is it was actually Google account A happens to be my TC Google account, and my YouTube channel for my TC Google account is close linked to that Google account. There's no brand account involved at all. So these videos were all watched by that particular Google account A, but they show up in the YouTube brand account because Google account A also is an owner of this particular YouTube brand account. So this doesn't make an awful lot of sense. You would think that each individual Google account A's owner and Google account B's owner would see their own watch history in their own YouTube channels, or their particular sign in to their YouTube channels, even where that is a YouTube brand account. There is no reason for this to be the watch history of this particular YouTube brand account. So that is another way of explaining it. All I can say is that if you have concerns, would be to check with the co-owner of the particular YouTube channel that you're on, or the YouTube brand account, I should say, that you're on, and seeing this particular confusing watch history. So if I were not also the owner of Google account A, I would contact the owner and say, hey, did you watch three heparin mistakes that kill? And obviously I would then be able to affirm that that is definitely what happened. I think all you can do there is clear the watch history and move on. It's nothing worrying. Let's move on to the more sinister one, and the sinister one is that obviously you could have somebody who is piggybacking in on your sign in, or somebody who has hacked your Google account's sign in with a third-party device. And the way to probably best deal with that would be to click on the top right hand side, and as I was going to show you anyway, go to something called myaccount.google.com. This is accessed at YouTube by clicking on the email itself. Anywhere else at Google, comes up as a blue colored link called My Account. So this is where we are. We're at My Account. I'm going to display it slightly differently because I think that it shows it a bit better. So this is basically the area that I'm interested in. You can look at devices activity and security events, and also look at connected apps and sites. Certainly do that and deauthorize devices that you would prefer didn't have access. And I recommend absolutely without fail run a security checkup. Doing that will help protect your Google account. Your Google account is basically how a watch history on a YouTube channel would, or YouTube brand account would be created, but it may not be that straightforward because of this business of devices. Between 2013, when Google Plus Pages came into being, or I should say came into being for YouTube users, we were able to link our YouTube channels to Google Plus Pages, which created an extra step that we had to take. In other words, if we then wanted to use a Google Plus page linked YouTube channel for a third-party device, I'm going to take an example that I know best, and that is an Apple TV. In order for me to use an Apple TV with a YouTube channel that was linked to a Google Plus page from 2013 onwards, I had to assign it a third-party tool password. And that meant that my Google account was no longer what was controlling the access to the YouTube channel that was linked to the Google Plus page. It was actually the Google Plus pages at pages.plusgoogle.com ID. It's a sort of email looking thing, but it isn't really an email address. It's a Google Plus page ID. This was retired in late 2016 when YouTube brand accounts took over from what was formerly the linkage between YouTube channels and Google Plus pages, and it's no longer necessary to have a third-party tool password. But those of us who have them, they still function. And I'm not entirely certain, because I haven't been able to work it out, whether it is actually possible for these to be hacked independently, or whether it is possible to force somebody to sign out if they are using this third-party tool password. And I'm thinking, perhaps if I were to have remained signed in as my Google Plus page, now YouTube brand account, YouTube brand account, YouTube channel, and if I remained signed in and sold my Apple TV, and that user, instead of the new owner, instead of signing into their own Google account or their own YouTube channel, whether they would still use mine and whether they would be able to add to my watch history. It seems to make sense that it would be the case, just as if you signed in yourself on your friend's device and forgot to sign out. So there is that, and how do you force them to sign off? Because it'll not show up as a device on the Google account because it's got its own password. Quite complicated. I'm still running tests on that, and I'm afraid it's taking a little longer than I had anticipated. The final thing is that you might actually see that there has been access with a third-party device that you don't recognize, and that might not even be because your Google account itself was hacked, in which case you would have gotten a security alert from Google saying, look, your password is, unfamiliar devices accessed your Google account, they've entered your password, we've blocked them, or even, your Google account password has been changed. Thank you for changing it. If you didn't make this change, here's what to do, which is all not very particularly helpful, because there are ways for a hacker to gain access to your Google account through you. So in other words, they're piggybacking in on your own sign-in. So if my device was infected by this particular malware, it's sort of a remote access malware, a Trojan type virus, I could be signing in on a morning, and the person who had sent me the virus would actually see that and would have access through me signing in as me, and I could be checking my Gmail and they could be away over on YouTube watching videos and even uploading videos. So this is another way that a watch history could be added to without you having done the adding or the watching of these videos. That's a little bit more scary, and the solution here would be to run a decent virus detection and removal program, and it needs to be done periodically, and it needs to be a really good program. And I have to say, Macs are not immune to these programs. I know only too many clients of mine who have had problems even with their Macintoshes. So that is how watch history can be added to in both very simply explained and slightly more scary means. And hopefully that's been helpful to you, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.